Memories in the Twilight. Nora startled awake, heart pounding as if she'd just run a mile. She wiped sweat from her forehead and glanced around the dimly lit room, the cool October air drifting through the partially open window. She took a sip of water from the glass beside her bed, trying to steady herself. The nightmares were getting worse, but she didn't want to wake Celeste, who lay sleeping peacefully under the comforter. Trying not to disturb her, Nora quietly slipped out of bed and headed downstairs. The living room felt strange at night, shadows casting different shapes on the familiar walls. Nora flipped through their old films and found one that felt like home. She pressed play and settled into the couch as the image of Celeste appeared on the screen, her face lighting up the room. Celeste, always so radiant with her short brown curls, deep green eyes, and the kind of smile that could warm the coldest days. The film showed her laughing with their old golden retriever, trying to keep it from licking her face. Even in silence, Nora could feel the joy radiating from the screen. She paused on that frame and for a moment, the memories washed over her, making her chest tighten with a mixture of longing and love. Her eyes drifted to the photos lining the wall. Pictures of her and Celeste at their favorite beach, celebrating anniversaries, and traveling with their friends Maria and Yara. There were so many memories of their daughter Ruby too. Her first steps, her graduation, and the day she left for college. Ruby with her wild red curls and freckles, so full of life and passion, just like Celeste. Now, Ruby was a scientist working on climate research and living in another state, caught up in her work but always calling when she could. Nora knew it was hard for Ruby to visit more often, especially since Celeste's illness. Celeste had always insisted on keeping things light and normal, not wanting to be treated differently. But the house felt emptier without Ruby's laughter and the family moments they used to share. As she continued to watch the film, Nora's gaze fell on the wedding video on the shelf. She hadn't watched it in years. On a whim, she placed it in the player, and there they were again, standing under the ivy-covered archway, exchanging vows. Celeste looked stunning in her white dress, and Nora couldn't stop smiling in her tailored suit. Even without sound, she could remember the words they whispered to each other, promising a lifetime of love. She thought back to the early days, to their first date at the quiet beach where the waves seemed to echo their laughter. Nora had been nervous, stumbling over her words, but Celeste had been calm and confident, making Nora feel like she could be herself. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over Celeste's face, Nora realized she was falling in love. It wasn't until months later that Celeste confessed she'd fallen in love the first time she saw Nora at the bookstore, fumbling through a stack of novels. Those memories were still vivid, even decades later. The quiet Sundays they spent reading together, the spontaneous road trips, and the countless nights they spent dancing in their living room, with the radio turned up loud enough to drown out their worries. This house had been their haven, filled with laughter, love, and even the everyday struggles that made life real. Nora turned to look out the window at the streetlight casting a soft glow on the empty road. She thought about the changes that had come with time, Celeste's illness being the hardest of all. The chemo treatments had taken their toll, stealing Celeste's curls and her energy, but not her spirit. Even now, in the face of everything, Celeste still smiled that same beautiful smile, the one that first captured Nora's heart. A creak from the stairs broke her thoughts. She turned to see Celeste standing there, wrapped in a thick robe. Her face was pale, her hair gone, but her green eyes still sparkled with the same warmth they always had. "Nora," she asked softly, "what are you doing up so late?" "I didn't mean to wake you, darling," Nora said, her voice catching as she tried to smile. "Just couldn't sleep." Celeste walked over slowly and sat beside Nora on the couch. She looked at the paused video on the screen, her younger self smiling back at them. "Watching the good times?" Celeste asked, glancing at Nora with a knowing look. Yeah, Nora admitted, feeling a tear slip down her cheek. I just miss how things used to be. Celeste took Nora's hand, her grip weaker than it used to be, but still comforting. We had some beautiful times, didn't we? Nora nodded, squeezing Celeste's hand gently. You make up all my best memories, you know that? And you mine, Celeste replied with a soft smile, resting her head on Nora's shoulder. They sat there together in the quiet, letting the warmth of their love fill the room. Nora knew that time wasn't on their side, but in this moment, she realized that even when the future seemed uncertain, the memories they'd made and the love they shared were something that could never fade. And that was enough to carry her through whatever lay ahead. Nora closed her eyes, feeling the weight of Celeste's head against her shoulder, and let herself drift through the memories that had built their life together. She thought of the early mornings when they would wake up before the sun rose, slipping out of the house for a quiet walk along the river. They would hold hands as they strolled along the path, the world slowly coming alive around them. Celeste would point out constellations fading into dawn, her voice filled with wonder and curiosity. They'd talk about everything. Dreams they had for their future, the books they were reading, the quirky habits of their friends. She thought about the little things too. The mornings when Celeste would surprise her with pancakes shaped like hearts, or the afternoons when they would rearrange the furniture just because they wanted a change. They'd laugh when they realized they liked it better the way it was before and move everything back. Celeste's laugh had always been contagious, and it could light up even the cloudiest days. But things had changed over the past year. Celeste's laughter had become rarer, softer, as the illness took its toll. Nora had watched as her once vibrant partner grew weaker, the cancer stripping away the physical strength but never touching her spirit. Celeste still tried to keep things light, cracking jokes even on the hardest days, but Nora could see the pain in her eyes. They had tried to keep things as normal as possible, keeping up their weekly Sunday brunch tradition, even when Celeste couldn't manage more than a few bites. Ruby would join them over video calls, showing them pictures of her latest research station or talking about her life out west. Nora knew Ruby hated being so far away, but Celeste always insisted she shouldn't put her life on hold. Your mother would have been so proud of you, Ruby, Celeste would say, beaming at the screen, her voice thin but warm. And so are we. Nora could still see Ruby's smile falter, trying to hold back her tears as she replied, I know, Mom. I miss you both so much. Nora wished she could have held Ruby through those calls, could have reassured her in person that everything would be okay. But she had learned that being strong meant different things for all of them. For Ruby, it meant focusing on her work and trying to carry on. For Nora, it meant being there for Celeste, even when the nights were long and she felt like she was falling apart inside. As she sat there with Celeste now, listening to the soft hum of the old video playing in the background, she realized just how much those quiet moments had come to mean. When she looked at Celeste, she could still see the woman she had danced with all those years ago. The woman who had made her feel seen and understood in a way no one else ever had. You remember that first night we danced? Celeste asked, her voice barely above a whisper, pulling Nora from her thoughts. Nora turned her head slightly, smiling softly at the memory. How could I forget? You looked like a movie star in that suit. Celeste let out a small laugh, a sound that seemed to fill the quiet living room. You were so nervous. I thought you were going to pass out before you even asked me to dance. Yeah, well, I almost did, Nora admitted with a sheepish grin. But you said yes. I did, Celeste said, squeezing Nora's hand gently. I'd say yes to you 1,000 times over. Nora's heart ached at the words, but she held on to the warmth of them, pressing a kiss to the top of Celeste's head. They sat in silence for a few moments, letting the memories settle between them like the glow of a fading sunset. After a while, Celeste spoke again, her voice fragile but filled with a gentle determination. Nora, I know it's been hard for you, all of this, but I don't want you to carry it alone. Nora's throat tightened. She had tried so hard to be strong, to keep a brave face for Celeste, but she could feel the cracks in her composure threatening to spill over. I don't know how to let go, she admitted, her voice breaking. I don't want to imagine a world without you in it. Celeste turned slightly so she could look into Nora's eyes, and in her gaze, Nora saw the same fierce love that had carried them through so many years. You don't have to let go of me, Nora. Not ever. But you can't stop living just because I'm not here. You have so much love in you. And the world still needs that. Ruby needs that. Nora nodded, though the tears slipped down her face unbidden. She had always known that Celeste was stronger than her in many ways. Able to see the beauty even in the hardest moments, able to face the future with a kind of grace that Nora could only admire. But it didn't make the thought of losing her any easier. I'll try, Celeste. I promise I'll try, she whispered, her voice cracking under the weight of the words. Celeste smiled up at her, a small, tired smile that still held all the love and kindness that had always drawn Nora to her. That's all I need to hear. They stayed like that for a while, wrapped in each other's arms as the night stretched on. The old video played on the TV, the flickering images casting a warm glow over the room, but neither of them paid it any mind. All that mattered in that moment was the quiet reassurance of each other's presence, the unspoken promise that their love would endure, even beyond the edges of time. As the first light of dawn began to filter through the window, Nora could feel Celeste's breathing grow more even, her weight settling against her shoulder as she drifted back to sleep. Nora held her close, memorizing the feel of her warmth, the rhythm of her breath, knowing that this moment was a gift, one more beautiful memory to carry with her, no matter what the future held. And though the days ahead would be difficult, filled with moments that would stretch her heart to its breaking point, Nora knew that she would carry on. She would carry Celeste with her in every sunset walk, in every story she shared with Ruby, in every moment she dared to find joy. Because Celeste had given her that gift, the courage to keep loving, to keep living, even when the path forward seemed uncertain. Nora pressed a gentle kiss to Celeste's forehead, whispering into the quiet morning light, I'll keep you with me, always. And as the sun rose outside, casting its first warm rays across the quiet town, Nora held on to the promise she had made, letting it become her strength.